Hi, welcome! In this video we will be talking about rare mushrooms found primarily in Oregon, but you can find them in the rest of the PNW as well. They just may be more or less rare in your state or region of your state. The ones we will be talking about are the ones that show on screen, and I will be going through each one of them individually and telling you all I know about each mushroom. So let's go! This one here is called Dendrocollybia racemosa, or racemosa. I'm not entirely sure which is the proper pronunciation for that second one, but I will be referring to it as racemosa just because I like how that sounds better. This is the most common fungus on this list, but in my opinion, it's the coolest. They're a saprobe fungus, which means they get their nutrients by breaking down dead wood or other dying tissue, but despite that, they can only grow on other decaying fungus, most commonly being Lacterius or Russulas, thus making it a mycoparasitic fungus. As you can see, the stipe is covered in these irregularly placed branches, and those little branches are covered with a slime head of conidia, which is fungal spores that are produced asexually. Also, this is the only currently known species that form conidia on side branches. The edibilities of these mushrooms isn't known, but due to how small they are, even if they are proven to be edible in the future, I'd say they're not worth it. Dendrocollybia racemosa can also reproduce both asexually and sexually. There can also be fully grown fruiting bodies that don't at all have caps. The time these mushrooms grow is in the late summer to fall, and there's about 538 worldwide observations of Dendrocollybia racemosa, but only roughly 60 in Oregon. I believe this one is pronounced Sowerbyella rhenana. I want to say that's not it because it sounds fake and made up, but so do most other mushroom names, so due to that I'm going to say it's probably accurate. There isn't much known about this one as it's not a very researched mushroom. The only information that I was able to find on it were off of Mushroom Expert and out of Noah Siegel's book. The information from Mushroom Expert basically says that it's probably mycorrhizal, and then according to Noah Siegel's book, the edibility is unknown, but it's likely non-toxic. Aside from that, they grow from summer to fall and sometimes in the winter in the West Coast range, and they grow in conifer forests. There is very, very little that I was able to find about this fungus, including the pronunciation of the name. I believe it is pronounced Calocera furcata, or Calocera furcata, not entirely sure. One of those two, most likely Calocera furcata. But yeah, was not able to find very much on this at all. In fact, the only thing I was able to find on it is that it grows on conifer in moist environments and fruits from spring to fall, and they're inedible. Also, they have been found 619 times worldwide and 13 times in Oregon. So this one is Entoloma parasiticum. Whereas the last two mushrooms barely had any information on them, this one I couldn't find any information on it. So what I'm going to be telling you is based purely off of my observation and other pictures that I was able to find off of iNaturalist. So to start, they are very rare fungus with only 36 total observations that were posted to iNaturalist alone, and 5 in Oregon. And it's a parasite that grows and fruits primarily on golden chanterelles and sometimes turkey tail from some of the pictures I saw. It produces quite a lot of fruiting bodies, which are generally gray with faintly pink gills and thick white mycelium. The chanterelle I found with it on it, they're all dark gray, meaning it's either just a different morphology or it could be a slightly different undescribed species, which is possible as it's not been studied very much from what I can tell. But due to it just being a visual color difference, it's probably just a different morphology, but how cool would it be if it's an undescribed species? I believe this one is pronounced Boletopsis leucomelaena, but I'm not entirely sure, as I am with most Latin names. It was first described in 1901 as Boletus leucomelas by Christian Hendrik Piesen. Then in 1889, Victor Fayand put it in Boletopsis. It's only been found 8 times in Oregon that are documented on iNaturalist at least, and the pore layer is very thin as it's only 1 to 2 millimeters thick. This is Hydnellum scrobiculatum. It was first described in 1915 by Elise Magnus Fries, I believe is how you say that name. I apologize if that's not correct. And listed as Hydnum, but in 1979, Peter Karsten moved it to Hydnellum. They can grow singularly in clusters or fused by the stipes, and it likes mixed conifer forest and grows in America, Asia, and Europe, but grows primarily in Eastern America. There's only 5 observations of it posted on iNat for it growing in Oregon, and a distinctive feature of it is that when you cut the flesh, it turns reddish orange. They fruit in late summer to mid-fall, and it's also a dying mushroom and gives black as color, which is very unique. I believe these are pronounced Cudonia monticola. They're inedible as they contain gyromitrin, which is a toxin that false morels also have, and fun fact, if consumed, mixes with your stomach acid and turns it into monomethylhydrazine, aka rocket fuel. They've been found 13 times in Oregon and 42 times worldwide, and they tend to grow in either small or large clusters. There doesn't seem to be very much of an in-between, and they grow in conifer forests in the spring to summer. This is Russula dissimulans. It can sometimes have very widely spaced gills, but it doesn't always have widely spaced gills. Also, when damaged at all, it stains reddish pink, even if it is just the slightest bit of damage. I found some information that says it's mycorrhizal with conifer or hardwoods. I'm not entirely sure which one. They typically grow singularly or in scattered groups, and they like warmer areas and grow in summer to fall. This mushroom grows primarily in eastern parts of America and has 230 observations total on iNaturalist, but only 6 in Oregon. I believe this is pronounced Hydnocristella himantia, but I'm not entirely sure as there is only a paragraph about this fungus. It was first put in the genus Hydnum, but in 1971 it was switched to Hydnocristella. It's been observed 144 times on iNaturalist in total, but only 7 times in Oregon, with it primarily growing in the eastern parts of America. Due to its morphology, my best guess is that it produces spores the same way lion's mane does. It also appears to go light brown with age, and also seems to like to grow in late summer to winter. Aside from that, there's really nothing else that I was able to find on this mushroom that at least I found helpful or interesting. Last but not least, we have Hydnellum albidum. Now this one is very special to me because I was actually the first person ever in Oregon to observe this on iNaturalist. As you can see, it's an albino hedgehog mushroom. They are edible, and I think they taste better than your typical belly button hedgehogs that you find in the Pacific Northwest. There isn't really much listed about these, so I'll just say what I have found out and what I know myself. They grow from summer to fall in conifer forests in small clusters, and they get pretty large. They also stay very clean, and the bugs don't seem to like them at all. They also are not at all bitter, and if anything, I think they taste a little bit sweet. Also, as most white things do, they glow blue to green under UV light. They also appear to not decay as quickly as your typical belly button hedgehogs do. As I said before, I was the first person ever in Oregon to observe them on iNaturalist within Oregon. And with that, there are now only 4 observations of them in Oregon, with 255 total. They grow primarily in the eastern parts of America.